What's going on, everybody? TJ and JT back for the Hurry Up Offense here to preview Week 16. Off top, no Mason. Hey, it's the holiday season. It's a busy time of the year. So Mason will give his lock of the week once we get there, but no Mason this week. It's just me and JT. But JT, have the last 7 days treated you, man?
It's been pretty hype as far as sports go, man. NFL, super crazy weekend. The Vikings obviously had the largest comeback in NFL history. Was insane. Had me on the edge of my seat. Thought about turning it off. Glad I didn't. Otherwise, obviously, World Cup final was insane. I saw somebody, they were basically like, in American sports terms, let's say LeBron and Michael Jordan faced off in the finals and one scored 50 and one scored 60. Like, that's essentially what happened. And I was
100%.
like,
And it went to overtime. Yeah, it was game 7. Yeah, everything. Dude, that World Cup final was bananas. Mbappe almost single-handedly won that by himself for France, which was bonkers. But I'm glad Messi got that ship. You know, it's funny. Quick diatribe. I was pregame hosting a show for VCU men's basketball, so I'm live for like 30 minutes. So before I'm live, it's like 33-7. I'm like, dude, the Vikings are dead in the water. That game's done. I come back from being on air, and I'm like, holy shit, what happened? I was gone. That game was bananas. And dude, was that even the craziest ending to a game? I mean, that Chandler Jones, like, stiff
yeah,
arm
no,
action,
that's
that
what's
might
so
have been
crazy. I was like, dang, they stole our thunder already with some other crazy thing. Nobody's gonna be talking about it. But yeah, it's wild weekend in the NFL.
Yeah, you got Roger McCreary coming up with a pick where he's out of bounds and throwing it back in.
And then the Jags beating the Cowboys.
Jags in OT, right?
Yeah, just wild weekend of NFL.
But yeah, that actually leads us perfectly into our first of 5 games. We're going to preview a little bit of a different schedule because Saturday this week is our Sunday, and then we have 3 games on Sunday. So a bit of a different schedule, but nonetheless, we're starting with Thursday Night Football, just as we always do. It's the Jacksonville Jaguars in the New York Jets. Dude, so I mean, won the Jags. Insane win against Dallas. I know that cost your lock of the week last week, a little 2-team parlay with the Vikes and the Cowboys. Right. We sweat through the Minnesota game just to then have the Cowboys choke in overtime. You'd love to see it. But, that Jags game, Trevor Lawrence continues to play really good. Got enough, big plays out of the defense. Obviously, the Rashawn Jenkins pick 6 late. And then you get this Jets team where Zach Wilson, I don't really think he looked great, but it wasn't horrible, I guess. But it just does still feel like a step down from Mike White. So, Thursday Night Football, 2 teams in a playoff race. Let me ask you 2 questions here. Right now, there's a 2-game difference or 1-game difference between the Jags and the Titans, and they play Week 18. Do you think the Jags steal the division from the Titans? And then let me know what you think about this one. Right now, it's Jets -1, but ultimately, I think this ends up being a pick 'em, maybe even the Jags favored by a point.
Yeah, Jags, Titans. That's a tough one, man. History would tell you the Titans figure out a way just with Vrabel. I don't know. I like Vrabel a lot. I like the way he just finds a way to win games kind of with an under-talented roster. He's able to get the job done a lot of times, especially when we're talking about like clinching playoff scenarios. It seems like the Titans always kind of sneak their way into the playoffs. That being said, though, I mean, these teams, we talk about all the time, 2 teams trending in different directions. I don't think the Jags are quite what we saw against the Cowboys every week in and out, and I don't think the Titans are necessarily what we've been seeing the past couple of weeks, but I think they're both kind of a little bit in between. So that's why, to me, it's almost a super crazy toss-up. It's completely different play styles. One, I trust the offense a little bit more. The other one, I trust the defense a little bit more. So it's just kind of, to me, it's a toss-up. I could see it going kind of either way. I'll say give me the Jags just because of the way Trevor Lawrence has been playing, really. I'm a big Trevor Lawrence hater for the most part, but he's really balling. He's balling, his last couple of weeks. He's been more consistent. We saw it early in the year. Had a good game against the Vikings, which isn't hard to do as a quarterback. But we saw him do that, and then we saw him kind of taper off and look like the same old Trevor Lawrence, just missing passes. Now he's out here, putting up some pretty good numbers, and against the Cowboys too. It's no slouch of a defense, and he put up some points. So give me the Jags at the end of the race there.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the upcoming schedule. So going back to this AFC South, conversation. So, the Titans get Houston this week. Let's just call that a win. But then Tennessee gets Dallas next weekend. And then that sets up Week 18. I think it's going to be a battle for the division. I think it's going to be in Jacksonville. It's going to be the Titans, and it's going to be the Jags. That Week 18 game decides it. I think the Jags steal the division. I think they're going to do it, partially because of that Cowboys game. And then I think, hey, in Jacksonville, give me the Jags. I think they might be a better team. But like you said, Vrabel just finds a way. Like, literally, you want to quantify it. You want to find the scientific reason for how. There's just not one. He just gets the job done. So finds wins to win games that he should. Ultimately, I think the reason, especially if this is a pick 'em, And it's Zach Wilson versus Trevor Lawrence, which is crazy. This is 1 versus 2 in the 2021 NFL draft. I got to go with Lawrence, right? And you even hit on it. Like, Lawrence has had games, he's had moments where it's like, oh, okay, there it is. Like, there we go. But then there's like a step back right after, or like 2 steps back sometimes. Last like 5 weeks, 6 weeks, dude's been hooping. So I'm here for it. And, as much as I do respect that Jets defense, you win by scoring points. So, I could see this being kind of an ugly, like, 21-17, 17-14, maybe even type of game, reminiscent of the Chargers-Titans game we just watched on Sunday. I can see something like that, honestly. So I think this is an interesting game. But, Lawrence versus Wilson. Ultimately, that comes down to the story. But is Zach Wilson even the best quarterback on the Jets?
No.
I'm a big Mike White guy, so maybe I'm a little biased. But, yeah, no. I'm right there with you. Better. Yeah. And some of the other things I'm going to keep my eye on in this one, Jags offensive line did surrender 12 pressures to Micah Parsons, which 12 pressures in a game is insane. And Micah Parsons is insane. But, what type of that, when you're talking about that Jets defensive line that, features Carl Lawson, Quinnen Williams, yada, 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 that's obviously something that's going to be talked about a decent bit. And then that Jets run game, maybe that's really the pathway. Like, I could see if the Jets win this game and Zach Wilson doesn't have 200 passing yards, I don't think I'll be surprised. If this is a game where, the running game wins you it, basically Bam Knight goes bananas, I could see it. That could be the biggest leverage mismatch I think the Jets have over the Jags, other than their defense. But again, defense doesn't win you games. So I think I got to roll with Lawrence and the Jags here. Total at 38. What do you think of that number?
See, you said like 14-10, 17, something like that. I'm kind of on the other side. I think it's going to be really over hits. I don't know. I think I might play. I'm probably going to play the Jags money line just because you can get it like plus 110 as it currently stands. I think that number might flip towards the Jags. We'll see later on in the week. I like the Jags to win the game outright, and I also like the over, to be honest. So maybe I'll throw some on the money line, throw some on the over, throw some on a teaser. It really, I don't know. I think is great value on a lot of different plays. I'm pretty firmly on the Jags this week. The one thing that concerns me, it's not even the run game really. It's the Jags secondary against Garrett Wilson. I just think Garrett Wilson, he's just a dog. Like, it doesn't matter who's at quarterback. That man is a demon. Like, he's very good. He's very, very good. He could be a top, 10 receiver at some point. He probably would be if he had, elite quarterback play. Totally. We wouldn't, we'd already be kind of sliding him in to that discussion. I don't trust Zach Wilson by any means, but he is somebody who, for the most part, will give his receivers a chance a couple times a game. And the Jags are, to me, they're a kind of a blown coverage type of defense. I don't know. They just strike me as a defense that's like, they're going to give you chances and down the field chances. They're not just like little chances. Like, you're going to be able to put up a little bit of points. And I think that the Jags are able to put up points against the Jets defense. So I kind of like the over. 38 is a really nice number to get it at too. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm watching. The only thing that worries me, like I said, is that Jags defense is a little, Swiss cheesy.
Sus. Yeah. No, and to that point, right now, if Jags money line is plus 110, I'm going to assume they're still getting a point, at least looking at DraftKings as of right now on Tuesday, which leads me to a really interesting point. But let me finish by talking about the over. I think if you get the Jags out to 7, that's pretty safe. You tease from 1 to 7 and then over 32. That's a pretty low number. That's and I think you raised an interesting point, just because even good defenses have games where it's like, damn, they had somebody drop 30 on them. Like, Dallas just surrendered 40. Now, granted, part of that was a pick 6, but they surrendered 34 in regulation to the Jags offense. So, it can come and go. And Zach Wilson is one of these quarterbacks. Look at last week, 3 big time throws, 2 turnover-worthy plays. And that boomer bust style against the bad defense, maybe a couple of big plays hit, but also turnovers tend to lean to more points in a game. So his variance in and of itself might even prop up the over. So that's actually an interesting point. The last thing I want to hit here, there have been twice this year, we've noted it here on this show. Both times it's included the Lions. So maybe it's just like a Lions thing, but when they were taking on the Jags opened up, favored by a point, then it switched over to Detroit. Same thing happened last week with Detroit and the Jets. So both times, line flips in favor of of Detroit, and they come up with a win. I think that ends up happening this week right now. If it's Jets -1, I think it becomes Jags -1 by the time we get to kickoff. And if that trend continues, I might just have to play for that in and of itself. We got to roll with a hot trend. They might make it 3-0 this week. So something interesting I'm going to kind of monitor there. Late money Vegas, how that might be able to push the lines. But anyways, let's move on to game number 2 that we're going to talk about this week. Giants and your Minnesota Vikings. So let me start with, so from that Vikings game, do you remember anything from the points where y'all were down 33-0? And then how much do you remember from point onward, because I even said in the power rankings, I was like, what should I pay more attention to? The problems that led to them being down 33, or the fact that they overcame it in about 20 minutes of football, which bananas. So
I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm going to be a bit biased here as a Vikings fan. I'm leaning more of the fact that we were able to come back, and the only reason I say that is like there are so many things that went wrong in the first half.
For sure.
It was very fluky. I mean, you just check the box score. Look at Matt Ryan. He wasn't lighting it up. It's not like we couldn't stop him in the pass game. You know what I mean? Like, you can just check the box score, and it tells you all you need to know. If you can find a way to get 33 points from the Colts out of their box score, you show me where it came from. It's like, it was just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it was just one of those halves where you're just like, what is happening? Like, what is going on? You know, we have a block punt touchdown. Dalvin Cook fumbles on like the first or second carry, the next drive, short field. Now they were able to convert some of those. So that, you know, props to them. Yeah, you just kind of looked up at the score. You're like, how are we down this much? Like, everything that could have gone wrong went wrong. I don't think you take, I don't know. A lot of things had to go right in the second half too. However, I will say the refs got to do something about these fumbles that they keep blowing dead. There were two of them.
Yeah.
We should have won that game like 2 other times before it even happened. But anyway, a lot of things had to go right. Our defense kind of stifled them a bit. It's not hard to do this to Colts. They're not good. If it was any other team than the Colts up 33, there might be a couple other teams I would say we could have done it on. Maybe like we're talking about the Giants here or something like that. Like any offense that you could see stalling for that long for an entire half, maybe. But it did help that we were against the Colts. We were able to, you know, the big Dalvin Cook play, really, that's a screen where somebody missed an angle. It's not something that you can bank on. It's not like every time we drove down the field, we weren't putting, 12 consecutive plays together, but also like we couldn't at that point. So we had to dial up some different plays there. I don't know. It's a tough one. It's not a whole lot you can take from it. It's just an insane game where we shouldn't have fallen as far behind as we did, and we shouldn't have come back as far as we did. So it's like, I don't know what to take of it.
Yeah, no, and I mean, fluky may not be the best way to describe it. But like you said, when you look at the box score, it's like, this doesn't make sense. There must have been turnover. So then you have to go to the play-by-play where like the score.
It was like unfortunate. It wasn't like fluky.
Right,
it was just like, man, that sucks. That doesn't happen all the time. Oh, that also happened in the same half.
Right. 2 minutes later. Yeah. But, and that's kind of the most impressive thing is like, y'all won, so I'm glad. But this game didn't even need overtime. Being honest. I mean, the fumble late, that got called back. I mean, what are we doing? Just don't whistle the play dead. Like, let's go. But yeah, insane there. And then I gotta know as a Vikings fan, y'all just have an innate ability to play these close games. So right now the line's at 3.5. I gotta go with the Giants to cover that. I think this becomes a 3-point game. I think this is the first of 2 interesting games. I think finishes exactly 3. But let me know the madness. I'm surprised you don't have any gray hairs on your head. But what's that like as a Minnesota fan, knowing, hey, this is probably gonna be a 3-point game no matter what.
Maybe. I don't know. I still lean 3.5. I don't know if I'll play it though. 3, I'll play for sure. I think the odds of us winning by more than 3 are higher than us winning by less than 3. But I also don't know that we'll win by more than 3. Like, it could just sit right at the 3-point, like you just said. It's one that's at 3.5. I don't know if I'll play it. I'm not touching the over. Actually, I kind of like the under at 47.5. I think I would lean under. I don't know if I'll play that either. But that's another one. Shoot, you could look to do a teaser with that and take the under with the Vikings pushed up a little bit. What is that? Plus 2.5, plus 3? Yeah. Something like that. So yeah, depending on where you can get it. I definitely like the Vikings to beat the Giants at home. Thibodeau, I was excited to see him perform pretty well in the Monday Night Football. So yeah, and he was really quiet to me, at least when I tuned in. I haven't watched a ton of Giants this year, admittedly, but when I tuned in and kind of got a glimpse of them, he kind of was just another guy out there. But last night he was, or 2 days ago, he was definitely a force. So I think it's definitely interesting to kind of see that matchup. We don't really struggle as much with it, with outside pressure coming in on our O-line. It's more of the interior pressure, just given the nature that Kirk Cousins has to step into every throw and he can't move. So interior pressure is kind of what we struggle with. I don't think
Dexter Lawrence has been a stud too.
Dexter Lawrence has been solid, but usually it's more of like, honestly, it's the blitzing. It's interior blitzes that we struggle with. It's not necessarily like, if you're rushing forward, we're usually fine. And that's the first time I've said that as a Vikings fan, probably in 10 years. But like, usually if you're rushing forward, we'll be all right. But it's when you bring interior blitzes, that's when we really struggle. Also, Darisaw, he was kind of banged up throughout the game in the Colts. It was just cramps, apparently. So he's fine. So yeah, I thought maybe he like re-aggravated or like rolled an ankle or something because he went down twice. And I was like, dude, what is happening? Like, why do you keep going down? It was just cramps. We had like 3 or 4 guys cramp up all game. Pat Pete cramped up multiple times. He cramped up. We had another corner cramp up. I was like, well, are we not drinking water here? Like, what's happening? So, but yeah, no, I think the Vikings come away with a win. But it's kind of a spot where I'm like, you look at the Vikings, we're 11-3. It's like, are we a 12-3 team? Like,
got a worse point differential than Jacksonville Jaguars do.
Well, the thing is, we've won games against teams that we probably shouldn't beat. So, like in a game where we should be beating the Giants, right? You almost feel like we're due for a loss because we've already beaten somebody we shouldn't, like the Bills or something like that. Like, I don't know. There's certain games like that you're kind of like, we probably could have lost that one.
Well, and I think, kind of even bouncing off that point, can we just talk about like the galaxy brain move of Kevin O'Connell going back 2 weeks when you guys lost the Lions? There's that late field goal, kind of puts it on ice, but it becomes an 11-point game. It's no longer a 1-possession game. Win in overtime against the Colts. My man Kevin O'Connell's now 10-0 in 1-possession games. My man is just thinking outside the box. He said, "No, give up the field goal to the Lions."
Something.
Then it's on one. But anyways, I think some of the things I'm interested in this one is Kayvon Thibodeau, because that did kind of, maybe it was just because I was at that game, but I was like, this is kind of a coming out party. Like Thibodeau kind of feels like
I can tell you, watching from home, he was that's the first time I've seen him be a game wrecker. Like that's what it felt like.
And a part of that, Washington's offensive line, I don't think is all that great, especially that right tackle spot they've been kind of struggling with. Vikings have a pretty solid tackle duo. Darrisaw hopefully healthy, and then you got Brian O'Neill. I like those two. That being said, Wink Martindale's known for blitzing linebackers, like creating pressure up the middle. That could be an interesting schematic. If Wink continues to do that, that could create some problems for y'all. But ultimately, I think I'm with you with Vikings 3.5, even though I feel like this is going to be a 3-point game. So I might go Giants in the picks league. Maybe the value is pushing this out to 9.5 or something like that. Maybe that's really where the value is. That, and I think go same game parlay, Vikes money line, and Fabian Moreau was shadowing Terry McLaurin all of last week. Catch prop hits, yards prop hits, and I love T-Mac, but JJ is just another level. So if it's Fabian Moreau following him around, I like over catches, I like over yards. Obviously, those lines aren't live yet, but I think if you did a same game parlay with Vikes money line and then catches and receiving yards, I think that's the way you really kind of crank up the value. And then it's like, whatever, just win by a point. I don't really care. So I think that's kind of the way I'm looking at this one. But it is interesting. These are 2 playoff teams right now. These are 2 playoff teams, which I don't know if I would have preseason been like, hey, the Vikes are going to win the NFC North and then the Giants are going to be a wild card team, but this is the world we live in. So anyways, moving on, let's go to game 3 now. This is the other major game I think a lot of people will kind of have their attention on, Eagles and Cowboys. So I think we have to kind of start with, it doesn't sound like Jalen Hurts. He hasn't been ruled out officially, but shoulder sprain, it sounds like not only this week, but next week as well. He's going to potentially miss, which the Eagles are in an interesting spot right now because 3 games to go. They need 1 win to clinch the number 1 seed. So for them, I could see a world where it's like, hey, Hurts, that even if they lose this week, but then they bounce back and win week 17. Do we see Hurts week 18? Maybe for a half, maybe for a quarter, just to knock off the rust. Maybe, but this might be the end of Jalen Hurts, which in turn kind of sucks because that probably means Pat Mahomes is our MVP winner just because Jalen Hurts can be down 3 games. So that kind of sucks. That being said, don't forget the legend Gardner Minshew. I'm taking the Eagles. Cover the 5 points. I think this is another 3-point game. So actually, there's one more game right after this, or 2 after this. Once we get to the Packers-Dolphins game, I think that ends up being a 3-point game. I kind of think the Giants-Vikings game finds a way to be 3 points. I think this ends up being 3 points. I'll take Dallas to win outright, but I like Philadelphia to cover. What do you think? Where do you stand on this one?
I think if I'm betting straight, just the line, I'm leaning the same way. Eagles. I think their roster is it's so good. The roster is so good at every position. And Jalen Hurts, there's a clear difference between him and Minshew in terms of, I would say upside of the offense is different. It's drastically different, but the floor isn't that different to me. I don't think there's a scenario where we see the Eagles not be able to score at all, or, they can't convert any 3rd downs. I don't think it's that big of a deal. Yes, you lose a huge element of the run game from Hurts to anybody that you would have had at backup. Right. So I get that, but I just don't think it's a big enough difference to warrant 5 points for a team that's just been shaky, inconsistent at best, and just not as consistent and just not as top to bottom. They're just not quite as good. Something's just not right with the Cowboys. I don't know what it is. You can't be losing to the Jags. I don't know. That's just not where you need to be when you're coming, into the Eagles. So 5 points is kind of nice. I don't know though. Something tells me like 5 might not be quite enough. I could see a touchdown or so. separating the game. I kind of like the under a bit. I think the Eagles limit some of their offensive play calling. They're just going to be a little more conservative, that kind of stuff. And I think the Eagles can hold down the Cowboys offense a little bit, especially more than what we saw last week. So yeah, I kind of lean the under. I would maybe push the Eagles and do a little teaser like, Eagles pushed out to plus 11. That gives you, a touchdown, extra point, and a field goal cushion. And then you take the under, under 52. That's kind of the way I'd play it.
Yeah, I love that teaser. To be honest with you, I love the value on that. And let me just kind of ask a follow up to that. It's like, Eagles are the number 1 seed in the NFC. Sure, this game's in Dallas, but if Jalen Hurts is playing, this line's at least like what, 1.5, 2.5 Philadelphia, probably 2.5, right? Get it just in front of the field goal hook. I would imagine it's there. Maybe it's a true pick 'em because it's in Dallas. Hurts to Gardner, like, I understand it's a step down. I think Hurts would be my vote for an MVP. Obviously, I'm not a voter for that, but is Gardner that bad? He's probably one of the 5 best backups, 10 best backups in the league, a former starter.
Yeah.
That being said, go back to when he was starting for the Jags and the numbers DJ Chark put up. I think this, obviously the assignment with Trevon Diggs will be an interesting one. A.J. Brown versus Trevon Diggs is must watch. But man, I could just see Gardner Minshew being like, I'm going to trust my dudes to go up and win it. And he's just going to put him in a spot to thrive. And, if A.J. Brown comes down with 1 or 2 of those big plays, finds the end zone, I think they keep it close. So ultimately, again, I think I'm with Dallas winning by a field goal. But yeah, also
I think Dallas struggles against their corners. I think the Eagles corners might lock him up a bit. CeeDee Lamb, to me, dude, he's so mid. Like, to me, he's just mid, dude. I just don't see.
That's a hot take. I like CeeDee.
He's mid. Like, he's the definition of like a mid wide receiver. He's a wide receiver too in my book. I don't care. He's just not that good. I don't know. I just don't think. I think they're going to struggle against the Eagles secondary. That's why I love the under. Really,
I like the underplay.
I like the Eagles to be more conservative, but I like the Cowboys to really not be able to put up their light show that they should be with the talent they have on the offensive roster.
Yeah, and talking more about the Dallas wide receiver room. They put up 34 against, bad Jags defense, but still put up 34. I think even last week you kind of saw it's like, man, I know they have the concern about the OBJ injury, but it's like, man, if you guys have one more dude on the outside, I feel like this offense could be kind of gross. Because like Noah Brown, he scores twice, but you still have how are you dropping that? Like, how are you going to be responsible for that last play? So still feels like they're missing that one last weapon. So it will be interesting to see how Philadelphia approaches CeeDee Lamb. And if you take him away, it's like, all right, beat me with Noah Brown. I dare you. T.Y. Hilton. Beat me with washed up T.Y. Hilton. I dare you. Also,
and the Eagles they're still healthy on defense, right?
For sure.
They're not.
Hassan Reddick's coming off a game where he was eating dudes alive on the Bears offensive line. And also, is Terrence Steele playing in this game? There might be a huge hole at right tackle. They had Jason Peters and Tyron Smith splitting time there at right tackle. That could be a potential disaster just because you're asking two career left tackles to play right tackle. So we'll see. But also, I think the biggest thing that I look at as an advantage, and there's a ton of things at Dallas as well, but their pass rush. I look at that pass rush and I'm like, that's why this team is so legit. And Micah Parsons can win you a game kind of by himself. Philly's offensive line is legit. Now, granted, Micah Parsons' game record, you can't really account for that, but on paper, this is one where it's like, it's kind of even, maybe there's still an advantage for Dallas, creating the conversation versus reacting, proactive versus reactive. It's just an inherent advantage there. Anyways, that's going to be interesting, right? And if Micah Parsons ends this game without a sack, then I think you would, if you saw that stat, you'd be like, okay, Philadelphia must have won, right? So that will be interesting. So I think Philadelphia's ability to kind of negate one of the biggest Dallas weaknesses is another reason why I like them to be able to cover the 5. So anyways, let's see that one. It kind of sucks the Hurts injury because it definitely dampened how lit that game could have been. But anyways, moving on. Now we talk Saturday night. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Las Vegas Raiders. This game being played at Acrisure Stadium in Pittsburgh. I'll start. Hey, my Steelers playing a good brand of football of late. Mitch Trubisky even looked kind of good this past Sunday. Had a high completion percentage. George Pickens is going up and literally without jumping, picking it out of the air. Dude's an animal. They're running the ball pretty efficiently. I think this is a game where TJ Watt goes bananas. We'll see what the draft book or DraftKings Sportsbook, sack line is for him, but I like him at least getting one sack against a bad Raiders offensive line. But ultimately, the Steelers offense may not be Kansas City, but the Raiders can't stop the run, and that secondary is not good. So I think this is one where we just kind of continuously see Pittsburgh be able to move the ball down the field, get a couple timely sacks. I'll take the Steelers. And actually, I did want to point this out. Mason in our note sheet, not here, but likes the over in this game. I'm not necessarily sold on it, but I could see a world, again, where Pittsburgh's continuously moving the ball down the field. A couple chunk plays from Devontae Adams. They're going to do their thing. A couple timely sacks, keep the Raiders off the board on that specific drive. That could be the way Pittsburgh wins this game. But what do you think about this one?
Yeah, the over's nice. I like the over as well. I think if I would play betting wise, I'd go probably Raiders, just get a couple extra points, push
Fair.
it to +9, give me the over, 33. I don't know. I kind of see your points. I just don't know if the Steelers, even with the Raiders defense being so bad, I just don't know the upside is quite there to where the Raiders can be on offense. Sometimes the Raiders are just like locked in on offense,
Fair.
and it's just hard to stop them, regardless of the defense. I mean, Josh Jacobs has been running like a demon all year. You've got Devontae Adams, to me, still the best receiver in the league personally. And then on the other side, you've got Mac Hollins, who's come on as of late as just like a weapon. He's really kind of what
Darren Waller healthy, Hunter Renfro healthy. This is as good as that wide.
Yeah, I mean, this is they're all healthy on offense. I think the Raiders don't really struggle much to move the ball, as long as they can kind of hold up T.J. Watt. That is the main concern. It's just whether or not you think they can, and it's not about winning one-on-one matchups. They're not going to be able to win those. It's whether or not the Raiders can scheme him out of the game.
Sure.
That's kind of what, to me, it's going to come down to. And the Raiders, they don't have much in the short game as far as like run after catch kind of guys. They don't have gadget guys. I think that's kind of what they're missing as an offense. If I could do something to them and kind of add something onto them, it would be something run after the catch, something that you could use on like, I don't know, edge, anything like end arounds, give me screens, that kind of stuff, just to keep TJ Watt honest. Because you can take him out the game just by getting rid of the ball quickly. Like you can take any defensive lineman out of the game just by doing that. So to me, it's do you trust the Raiders on offense to scheme him out of the game? You're not going to beat him out the game, but you can scheme him out of the game, and I think they'll be able to put up 20 plus, and then whether or not you think the Steelers can kind of match it is kind of where I'm at. I think I'd lean Raiders because they're getting the points,
sure,
and the value, especially as a betting angle, is on the Raiders. Because if you take it and you push it to Raiders -3, you're getting a nice payout. As far as just betting, a single leg on a realistic outcome. It's not, far-fetched to say that. But if you like the Steelers to win, it's not. I don't think it's like a bad pick by any means. But I lean Raiders. But I think it's just because of the upside of the offense compared to the Steelers.
And that's fair. And like Devontae Adams, like even him at like his 75th percentile version. I don't think Pittsburgh has anybody who can check that dude. I don't think there's anybody in the Pittsburgh secondary outside of maybe Mika Fitzpatrick, but he's a safety. It's different.
Nah, Minka's nice, but
yeah. But like still a man-to-man, I don't know. But that being said, the corners even 75% of Devontae. They're not keeping up. And now you add in a Waller, you add in a Renfro. Matt Collins, of course, still in the mix. Yeah, you're right. And I mean, I think ultimately the game plan really is like you run away from TJ Watt, limit how much he takes this game over. And in turn, that means you're running at Alex Highsmith, who been a solid pass rusher, a little bit weaker of a run defender. That's probably the guy you want to run at. Also, running, trying to stay ahead of the sticks, trying to keep third in manageables. Also tries to take away Cam Hayward from this game. So ultimately, I think this game comes down to the Raiders stay ahead of the chains and stay on schedule, to kind of use an old football head kind of term. I think they end up playing okay. And then I think, I could see them, being able to win this one. I just think there's going to be too many times where Josh McDaniels does something dumb. They're playing behind the sticks and the Steelers pass rush comes up with stops. Now, that being said, hey, I do want to give credit to Josh McDaniels, my man. The first time this year when he held a 13-point lead in the game, got a dub. It took, Chandler Jones stiff-arming Mac Jones into non-existence, but, and it took Jacoby Myers making that throw.
That was wild.
Yeah. But that might be the best thing Pittsburgh could do, right? Like, let Josh McDaniels get a 13-point lead, and then let's just make this comeback happen. But I do want to also throw in Kenny Pickett in line to start in clear concussion protocol. And I think in specific, even omitting last week and then even the week before when Pickett leaves, I think when he's been under center, this offense has looked a little different and they've been able to move the ball more consistently. So especially against a bad Raiders defense, over 39, been a huge number to eclipse. But I do agree with you. One of my honorable mentions this week, it's not going to be my lock of the week, but the Raiders are a great teaser leg, out to 8.5. Even with Pittsburgh moving the ball better, they're not beating people by 2 scores. I just don't see that as possible. Right. So you could even do this game, right? Like Raiders 9, out to 9 now, and then over 33. Yeah, that feels like an absolute cakewalk. So that Devontae Adams props could certainly be live. I like TJ Watt to get a full sack in this game, so something else I'm going to be monitoring that one. But hey, this is also the anniversary of the Immaculate Catch, so I think this is going to end up being a really fun game on Christmas Eve. So Moving on now, we head into our true Sunday slate, and this is only going to be 3 games on the day, but this is going to be Miami and Green Bay. I didn't think I was going to end up putting this game in there, but then Green Bay wins on Monday Night Football, and of course now,
a good game.
I think this could end up being a good game. It's in Miami, and the weather looks great. The weather looks phenomenal. So that, and then Green Bay is still alive in the playoffs, and now they have Romeo Doubs, Christian Watson. Like they have the full. I mean, it's still not Devontae Adams and what they've had in years past, but they got the full arsenal now. And it's like, okay, well, things get interesting. Now, granted, their upcoming schedule is the Dolphins this week, the Vikings next week, and then the Lions in week 18. So they got to win out, and those are 3 pretty tough games, but they beat the Dolphins. All of a sudden, it feels like, damn, maybe this team sneaks in. What do you think about that
one? Ooh, now that you mentioned their remaining schedule and that they've already
schedule's so hard, man.
No, it is, but like you're getting 2 division opponents that Aaron Rodgers knows like the back of his hand, and then you're getting a game with a struggling Dolphins team, or not necessarily struggling, but just kind of down Dolphins team. I don't know. There might be some value on betting Packers to squeeze into the playoffs. Like I could definitely see them ripping off these 3 in a row. The Vikings, historically, we love to split with Aaron Rodgers, whether or not it's an up or down year with us. There are times, there's years where we're terrible and they're great and we still sneak one out. And there's ones where we shouldn't lose and he finds a way to get it done. So, and then the Lions, same thing. I don't think the Lions, I wouldn't bank on them beating the Packers twice at all. So I don't know. I see some value just from a betting angle on the Packers to slide into the playoffs. You can probably get it at some crazy odds right now because it's a long shot. Like, yeah, but sure. I mean, if it hits, you're sitting pretty. So Dolphins -4 feels way too accurate. Like I don't want to touch it. 10-foot pole. Like, nah, dude, I'm good. I'll just save my money and I'll watch the only good game that day. I'll play props. I'll probably just look for props, start searching around, see what I like. AJ Dillon's a little questionable. You could throw a little Aaron Jones prop in. He's got a concussion. I don't see them. The way he runs, I could see them being a little more conservative with playing him this week. Yeah, so I don't know. Shorter week, not by much, but slightly shorter week for them. Coming off the Monday night game, so it's one of those where, yeah, the line's too good. I think I'll just play props. We can see where Romeo Doubs prop is this week because last week,
dude, that was so
DraftKings was tripping. They had it at 20.5. I saw it at 19.5 at some points. It's like, what are we doing? Did we forget?
That was such a free play. I was like, thanks.
Well,
and then
the thing
first
is,
drive.
Yeah, like you can just watch the Packers all year. Like 19.5 is for the receiver that spells other receivers.
19.5 is Robert Tonyan.
Right. That's the guy that comes in and he's on the field because you got to have another receiver on the field to be a legal formation. That's where you put the 19.5. Not a guy that they scheme up screens for and they scheme up like they actually scheme Dobbs into the offense. 100%. That was the most free bet I've had all year. But yeah, so that's kind of how I'd look to play it. Just keep your eye on props, try to find some value.
Yeah, and I can see, Christian Watson, if he runs the right route, he gets in the end zone. But now I'm kind of glad that streak broke because hopefully there's a nice little bounce back value.
He could have scored multiple times because he got tackled at the 5 too.
Yeah.
Like early in the game where he definitely could have easily snuck out of an arm tackle and found his way in there.
So last week on Monday Night Football, I think it was plus 145. So I'm kind of hoping it gets to that plus 175, maybe plus 200 territory. I'll jump on that. I don't think the Dolphins defense is all that great. It's got some pieces that have been good, but they win games 32-29. They lose games 32-29 like they did to the Bills last week. So I'm intrigued by the over in this game as well. Right now it's sitting at 49.5. That's a little rich for my blood to bet it straight up. But if you wanted to tease Green Bay out to 10, kind of that same insurance we were talking earlier about. What game was that? Was that Philadelphia out to 11? That and then over 43.5. I can get down to.
Ooh, that over under looks high to me. I like the under.
You like the under?
9.5. I might play that.
Temperature, man. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I don't care.
Also, I think the other thing I'm keeping in mind too is I think the Green Bay defense looked good on Monday night, but that was against Tutu fucking Atwell, pardon my language. Baker Mayfield on his second week, and Cam Akers. That's as depleted a skill group there is in the NFL. Now you get Jalen Waddle. Now you get Tyreek Hill. Now you get and specifically the run game. Like Packers, outside of last week against the Rams, they have been pretty bad against the run. So you see Raheem Mostert have like 100 plus yards on 10 carries against Buffalo, another team that kind of struggles to stop the run. I could see that being a kryptonite of sorts. So again, I've already said this about a bunch of these games. I think this ends up being a 3-point game. I think this is the time of year where the NFL product just becomes insanely good. So I think this becomes a 3-point game. So I'll take Green Bay in the picks league. I do like Miami to win outright. I just don't see them losing 4 straight games. To me, right now, they're the 7 seed, but I like them better than I like the Chargers, and I like them better than I like the Ravens. And it's not even close with Baltimore right now. They're going to get Lamar Jackson back, but you look at the wide receivers, I don't think it's close with them in Baltimore. So I think this is the best wild card team and team I thought that had a legitimate shot to win the division and steal away from Buffalo. So I'll roll with Miami to win outright and that 3-game losing streak end the season on a positive note. So yeah, I think this could be a hot props game. This is unfortunately, Sunday slate. Thank God it's Christmas because those 3 games ain't all that
awful.
And this game's at 1.
Well, they definitely put these in like thinking they were going to be some hot matchups.
Oh, 100%.
They were like, oh, this is fantastic. They were all bad, dude. They're all bad. This is the best, like by a landslide. The rest are even worse.
You already the 4 o'clock game is Broncos Rams, and they're like, man,
that is a snooze fest, dude. Like what are we gonna see? Like combined 250 passing yards? Like, do we even see that? I don't know. Like
Baker only had 111 against Green Bay.
That's what I'm saying, dude. Like that game is going to be awful. I'm still gonna watch it, like just because it's NFL.
And then the Sunday night game is Tampa Bay favored by 6.5. And I'm sorry, if they're favored by anybody, if they're favored in any game by 6.5, that other team must suck. And I mean, it's the Cardinals. And it's Trace McSorley. Is it going to be Colt McCoy? I mean, that's rough. But anyways, that will do it for our 5-game preview. Some really fun games that obviously a fun time of the year. But now we talk Watch the Week. This is when we repay the favor back to people watching us, which we appreciate you doing. Hit the like button, hit subscribe, comments and plays that you like this week. But now we're going to go ahead. We can't say this technically because of IRS purposes, but this is when we give you free money. So let's go ahead and kick things off. I'll start with my lock of the week. I don't really feel like I have a great option for this week, but I'm rolling with a 3-team money line parlay. I got the 49ers beating the Commanders. I got the Titans beating Houston because they need it. I got the Bills winning in Chicago because it's the Bills and the Bears. So that's lopsided rosters, to say the least. JT, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to do a 2-team money line play. The Vikings at home versus the Giants, and then the Lions are playing at the Panthers. Give me both of those. You parlay those together, you get plus 161. So I really like the value there. It's not just a play that I think is a lock. I think you should try to go for the value as well. Otherwise, I like that as my lock. It is very tempting to take the Raiders teaser that we talked about as a lock as well. That's another one where I consider that just the same as far as me thinking it just as likely to hit. The Raiders plus 9 and over 33. That just sounds like you said, I mean, that just sounds like something you have to play. So yeah, that's something I'll also be playing for sure.
Yeah, and by the way, my 3-team parlay, that's Niners money line, Titans money line, Bills money line, that comes up to plus 128. So I forgot to put that in there. And then Mason, as promised, his lock of the week, it's plus money value all the time. It's plus 278. My man is swimming in it. He's got Lions money line, interesting. Dolphins money line, I can get behind that. And then Chargers money line, which that leads me to the question of who the hell do the Chargers play this week? They got, the Colts on Monday Night Football. So, okay, that's not bad. It's not bad. So
I like those 3. The Dolphins scare me a bit just because I don't know, man. Rodgers, he's a demon.
Rodgers this time of the year, yeah.
I do really like the Lions at the Panthers this week. Yeah. I think that's good value there.
Yeah, and I mean that kind of leads us into honorable mentions. I love Jags plus 1. I mean, again, a blooming elite quarterback potentially versus Zach Wilson, and he's getting a point. Yeah, give me Jacksonville. The Lions Panthers spread at 2.5 is bewildering to me because like 2 teams heading in very different directions. That kind of leads me to think it might be a trap game. But that said, that 2.5 is a great one when you get it north of the field goal hook. And then I like that Raiders teaser. You could also go Raiders plus 9, 49ers down to -1. Basically, can they win at home against Washington? I think they can. So those would be my honorable mentions. Any other things you want to throw out?
I'm just saying just a strategy that I might use this week. I don't want to sound too cocky, but I feel like a lot of these games you can pick at least the winner. Right. So it might be a good week, at least in my opinion, some of these matchups. I really like to play, some money line parlays where even games where you shouldn't most of the time, if you have a toss-up game like Jags Jets, you're not really like necessarily hammering it. Like I love the Jags in this spot. Like I think that's a great spot to get the Jags at great value, and that just takes your money line parlay, through the roof. And you pair that up with a bunch of safe bets like the Bills and
Chiefs or
Chiefs
like that,
or whoever, any of your minus 300s or minus 280 that you don't want to play straight because it's just terrible value. Throw a Jags leg on there and make your money.
Which leads me into one final point for the episode. Don't be this asshole. Did you see the tweet where the dude put down? It was I can't even remember the exact odds. So look this tweet up. But a dude bet Colts money line when they were up 33-0. He was like, it's got to be there, man.
Great idea. Yeah, he was trying to make those like 2%.
He should make like 3 pennies probably.
Yeah.
I mean, that had to be.
He was like, well, it's better than the stock market going down. Like you can't go down if you win it, but it was even worse.
When in turn he could have bet $1 on Vikings money line or whatever that was at that time. Yeah, and would have made a lot more money. So
that would have been insane.
Interesting. But anyways, that's going to do it for our Week 16 NFL preview. This has been the Hurry Up Offense. Thanks again, everybody, tuning in. For JT, Mason absent this week. My name's TJ. Until next week, we are signing off.